Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stigma-Free Society's broadcast. This is Lunch and Learn with Daniel Toe from the Surrey School District. I'm really glad that you can all join us. I know that the Stigma-Free Societies had a lot of live events recently with our CEO doing a fundraising campaign. And if you had any opportunity to watch any of Andrea Paquette's broadcasts or any of her friends' broadcasts or any of the broadcasts that we have here at the Stigma Free Society. Hopefully, you've had an opportunity to donate to this wonderful society that really works to stomp out stigma in the world. And it's been a pleasure for the Surrey School District to partner with the Stigma-Free Society, and actually the province of BC partnering with the Stigma-Free Society. And we are so happy to coordinate with them on these monthly broadcasts. And we're glad anybody either watching live or maybe you're not able to watch live and have lunch with us, but you're able to watch afterwards. We're so happy you're able to have lunch or dinner or whenever you're watching with us today. So we are very glad to have Jessica Marano, who is actually one of my teachers in the Surrey School District, but she's also I would say professional, but also collegiate athlete in the BC in soccer, or as Europeans call it, football. And I just before we get into our topic for today, I do want to say that we in the Surrey School District, we are on the shared traditional territories of the Semiahmoo, Katzie, Kwantlen, and Coast Salish peoples. And as we speak here today, Jessica and I speak. Jessica's going to be speaking from her heart and speaking about young athletes and the stress that they go through and the mental health struggles that many young athletes go through that maybe we don't even know about. And of course, we do represent the district when we're here, and just so that everyone knows that that we are representing the Surrey School District when we talk. Although we are going to be talking about our opinions on the Stigma-Free Society's live event. So, Jessica, I just before you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you are, I want to tell everybody watching and those watching afterwards why you're even here. And she is an awesome teacher. Jessica is a wonderful teacher, and she's been working in our outdoor ed program, working with vulnerable and at-risk youth. But really, what really got me to say, hey, Jessica, you need to come on to the May broadcast was this Instagram post that she put up on her business or professional, I don't know how you want to quantify it, Instagram. And I'm just going to read it to everybody here because I thought it was such a heartfelt and touching post. And then Jessica, I'll ask you the questions that I told you I was going to ask you. Okay. So it reads, the life of a college athlete is often glamorized. Yes, there are many privileges that come with being a college athlete, and I promise are not lost on us. Many of those privileges are what kept us from reaching out for help or held over our heads when we do. As a person on the outside, you see the mountaintop of our experience. You see us performing. You don't see the hours, days, weeks, months, and years we have spent preparing. You see us hoisting hardware for adoring crowds. You don't see us having panic attacks alone. You see us, the polished politicians we have been taught to portray, but you don't see us as the person behind the jersey, just the 18 or 21-year-old kids, each with our own struggles. And you do go on and talk a little bit more about those things that I don't want to ruin what you're going to be saying today, so I don't want to read the whole post, but just that initial post alone, and then you go on later to talk about some of the athletes. I was very moved by that as a girl dad, a daughter of a female and male. My son is a skateboarder and a skier and a rugby player. So, as a parent of athletes, this is really jarring for me as someone who says, okay, I could potentially, because my kids, unlike their father, are actually good at sports for some strange reason, must be their mother. And, I find it so jarring that this could be what some of our 18 to 21-year-olds are going through, right? We do see the glory on TV. We do see it when we go to your games, but we don't see all that's behind it. And you're totally right. So before we start, why don't you tell us about yourself, your collegiate athlete career? I know, you've done so many different cool things in your life, and you're not even 30 yet, right? You're not even 30 yet, right? No, you're not, right?
No, not.
No, you're not. So why don't you tell us about your life and what you've gone through, and sort of what brought you to write this really touching post. I think I just felt emotional about it. Oh, you've lost you. Are you back?
Oh,
there you
I'm
are.
back.
There you
Yeah.
go. Cool.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Daniel. Really appreciate this opportunity, and I love that you were able to connect with the post that I made. Again, I'm speaking from, a female perspective. I know that males go through it as well, and it's less emphasized, but from a female role, I know that I've gone through it myself, right? And now with all the pressures that we have with social media, it's yes, one way to connect with this issue, but another way, it's also impacting the issue even more. So it's the irony behind it is quite interesting that we can voice all these different things that are happening, but it is also the root of the issue as well. So growing up, I was a student athlete. I played soccer I've been playing for about 15 years now.
Yeah.
And I went on to play in college, university, and I think it was a very different time when I was playing. I got recruited when I was in grade 10. I knew what I wanted. I went right into it, and it led me in a direction where my path was already paved for me. I kept my head down, did my schoolwork, got my education down, and I had my sport alongside me, right? The missing component that I didn't have was the social media. So we had Facebook. At the time, I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have Snapchat to, redirect my mind. So in a way, I was quite lucky, but it did start to emerge in my third and fourth year. During that time, I also got a concussion. So there were quite a few things going on at once. And that's where I feel like it all hit me. My grades went down. I was more disconnected from the team. And I wasn't able to focus on the one thing that kept me going, which was my sport, because I was out for so long. So, we talk about all these different pillars that hold us up. And as student athletes, we have our school, we have our soccer, we have our family, and we have our health and what have you. So those were three of my pillars that were down. My social network, which was my team, my sport, and my education. So again, it's like without the social media, without that factor, I was already struggling, right? And so you start to wonder, you try to remove the attachment. What am I without my sport? And these are where the psychological games start playing with you. You start to wonder, really, like, how can I separate? But when you've been doing something for so long, you feel kind of lost. Another part of it is, you have your team of your teammates, and they're around you all the time. That's your social network, right? And if you don't have that, say you have an injury or you get cut from a team, it's so much more than just being cut and having to go forward with your life. You're losing your friendships. You're losing, your circle of people, right? Because even in high school, I would say that my best friends now are from my sport. Primarily, right? I have one very good friend from high school, but it's like my circle that held me up was from my sport. And I think it's because you confide in these people, you spend so much time with them, you know what they're willing to do for you on and off the field, right? It's like there's no hidden agenda there. And so when you have this connection and you at some point go through an injury, it really takes a toll. And so the whole mindfulness and resilience that I work on now is because of that. It's like the bounce back, right? How do you bounce back from something that is trying to push you down or making you start again or start over? And I feel like because of the many pressures nowadays, including social media, that bounce back isn't as strong.
Do you think Do you think that like you competing had something to do with it? Because I know what some people would say. Like they say, okay, well, you had a concussion, you didn't see your friends, make new friends, or why couldn't you just find other people to hang out with? There's so many clubs. Go sign up for a community center or something like that, right? But I think like being the girl dad, boy dad, I'm in my car a lot, just driving people around.
Right.
But is it because you spent so much time in your youth with these people when you lost some of those things? Like it was almost like an appendage being removed. Like, what made you feel that loneliness when you had the concussion and when you weren't able to see your team and your friends and etc.?
Yeah, and that's a very interesting question. I am very introverted, so yeah,
who teaches for
yeah,
me and does awesome stuff with all these kids and posts these cool videos about how things are great in our school.
Yeah,
I love it.
I'm very introverted. So I think that's why I can connect with these students so much, is because I know what that feels like. I'm very much in here than out here. So that's one thing, is making new friends is like daunting. It's like, oh my goodness, like I have to start again. I finally found people that get me. So that's one thing, but it's also the idea behind so before I played soccer, I was figure skating. And figure skating is very
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I danced, figure skated, but that's a very individualized sport, right? You don't have your teammates around you. It's very much just you. I got to the age of 10 and I was watching a figure skating competition on TV, which I loved, with my mom. All of a sudden I started bawling my eyes out. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be by myself on the rink. Like I can't do it. So she's like, okay, fine. It's all good. Like just continue with soccer.
Your mom's so awesome. Sounds so great. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was because I had support, and being introverted and not being able to easily make those connections. I felt like that was my home. Being a part of a team was, when I would perform, I would get the praise. And when I wasn't doing so well, I would get the support to do well. So it was the environment that allowed me to grow. And even though I had my faults and what have you, and there are areas that I needed improvement, they still supported me, right? They were still there for me. And so when I was removed from that, I felt like not only was I letting myself down for my own self-improvement and the things that I was like trying to work towards, but I was also letting my team down because of how much value I felt like I brought, or that they felt I brought too.
Yeah, and just what you're saying here is speak to some of the pressures that you or some athletes have personally faced. Can you talk more about some of those pressures that you feel as you got through high school and started making provincial teams, which you were recently still on, and you're making these, you're a starter, you're a leader. What additional pressures? Because when you write about these players in the States that took their own life, and just so everyone knows, we have 4,000 people in Canada who die from suicide a day. That's one per province and territory every single day, right? And suicide is something that we don't talk about enough. But when you talk about these athletes, elite athletes who won championships, who've committed, took their own life, unfortunately, because of mental illness, what are some of the pressures? Like, you've been there, you're still doing it. That you're facing as an athlete that maybe people don't even notice and don't even see and say, what happened there? This person was so happy, so bubbly, so joyful, was a leader, was our captain. Why did she take her own life?
Well, I think it's obviously different for everyone, but I would say when you're at an all-time high and you wake up the next morning, it's almost like you've worked so hard to get to that point. You put your all to it, your body, your mind, everything. You've put other things on the back burner. And then you get to that point and then it's over. And you feel a level of emptiness because the praise is no longer there. Your self-recognition and your desire to work towards something, it's almost like, okay, flip the page, next, what's next? And it's like when you constantly live a life to like build, reach, start again, build, reach, it's almost like you feel exhausted and you feel a little empty because you've given something your all, right? So I was talking to my mom about this too, where like even after my game, I'm sitting in my car for 2 hours. Just, I'm like, I can't move. Like, I've given this game my complete all. You know, I've given my teammates my all. Like, I put my body on the line, my mind on the line, right?
Yeah.
And no one understands. You feel like, no, like other than your teammates, right? Because they're all grieving and feeling the same way. But you just don't know what to do at that point, right? Other than put your head down and keep going. But for someone at my age, you don't know when that's gonna end, right? It's like I'm now coming on to 30 almost, and I don't know if my career is gonna end soon. My soccer career is gonna end. I hope not.
Yeah.
My body just doesn't adjust the same way. I'm a different.
Wait till you're 47 and nothing adjusts.
Exactly.
So you know.
Have kids and make sure they watch me play one day. But yeah, so it's just, you never know. And I think that that's something also that is at the back of every female's mind when you're playing, is because now sports getting better and bigger in female athletes and stuff. So we have more avenues to explore in terms of reaching the professional level. But to know that it's second to your primary job, and it can never be something that can really hold you. You think your entire life you work towards something, and it's just this constant having to always improve, but you don't really know what you're working towards, because it's never going to be something as if a male athlete was pursuing it as a job, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally. But even as a female and male athlete, is there pressure to that responsibility as well? Because you talked about keeping your body in shape and make sure you're available for your team. Does that level of responsibility to your team cause even more stress? Because when I look at the people that you wrote about, they weren't like the 12th person or 15th person on the team. They weren't like the person who's just warming the bench. Like, they were leaders. They had won trophies. They were captains.
Yeah.
If I read the stats of people who've taken their own life or had declared mental health issues, they were, again, leaders on their teams, not the last player.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that that's like body dysmorphia has a huge thing. And it's quite sad, because I noticed in my 4th year, it was something that was just normalized. You watch what you eat. You only eat a certain amount per day. And I would work out, like I tell my athletes this all the time, that we would have 2-a-days, and I would go to the gym before my first workout at 8:00 in the morning. I would go to the gym on my own. And then midday, I would go to, I think it was like a 2:00 practice. And then the evening after dinner, I would have another workout. So that was something that was normalized to me. And I didn't know how much stress I was putting on my body and on my mind, because I was reaching a certain goal in the weight room or physically, or just looking at myself and being like, no, not good enough. And I feel like that's something that, you know, even to this day, because it was so normalized in my everyday life, I still have notes of it. Right.
Wow.
And that is something that, like, to me, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Go to the gym in the morning, go to work. But it puts a lot of pressure when I still have meetings with my students. Now I have another life that I'm living pretty much, but still needing to meet these expectations for myself and for my team.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a whole other, it becomes a way of thinking, but it haunts you so much that it gets to the point where it gets draining, and you reach one point where, like, I've had days where I need to sleep all day, because I feel like I'm burning out, and I'm reaching the point where I have too many expectations because I'm wearing so many different hats.
Yeah. Well, one of the guests on the who are watching from somewhere is asking if you have a website or a blog. So I'm going to ask you that at the end, if you know, to share your Instagram and things like that, and so people can follow what you're talking about. Because again, I follow you, and I want my daughter to follow you as well, because she doesn't have social media yet, because she's 10, and I'm not really into that. But giving her that, she doesn't really want it. She just reads books on her phone. But I do want to talk about. So I'll ask you that at the end. But I do want to ask you again about that pressure, because did you work out so much because you felt responsible to be the best for your team? You didn't want to disappoint your teammates? Was it for yourself? A combination of everything, pleasing your coach? What was it that made it so that you felt like you had to do so much to get to this level?
Yeah, I think it does stem from people pleasing. So I noticed this afterwards, right? Doing my own reflections. I have my master's in trauma and resiliency. So primarily that was like for myself.
Before the age of 30, by the way, just so everyone watching knows. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, so that's primarily why I did get my master's in that, is because I knew that there was a certain type of conditioning that I was under in terms of having coaches and pleasing them. And it was, we would have tests every other week in preseason, and we did the mile test, and I got the best on my team because I literally 2 weeks prior, I just put my head down. I don't know what my grades look like those for 2 weeks, but I literally, it was the only thing that I focused on, was doing well for that test. And I came first, and the first thing that my coach had said to me was, "You're doing it again. I don't believe your time." And I was like, that's another example of working so hard towards something, and it's almost like a slap in the face because you're still not good enough. There's still, right? And I think that what I've learned during this time is you're never going to be good enough, because it's a journey, right? It's not like, oh, I've reached this checkpoint, now what? Like, you got to keep going. It's a marathon. It's not like once you pass this one test, it's like, okay, I can kick my feet up and just, it's all good. But that's what I teach my athletes now, is that, like, okay, look forward to these things and work your hardest, but know that at the other end of that mountain that you're climbing, there's another one that you're just going to keep trying to climb. And you need to find excitement in the journey and not feel deflated after, you reach that one milestone. But all these pressures, it comes from that desire to please and that desire to be the best of the best. And I think, even my sister tells me all the time, she's like, you literally do it all. She's like, I don't know how, but you need to just like relax and be proud of yourself a little bit so that you can reap the benefits of all the things that you're doing. I think that it's a very true fact, because when you are constantly chasing for other things, you forget the journey, and you forget the excitement that comes with the process of attaining those things. So I think I'm doing a better job now. Definitely not that I don't enjoy everything that I do, but I'm very goal oriented. And I think as an athlete, you always kind of crave that. You look forward to the next game that you're going to play. You look forward to the next practice or the next test that you're going to have, and you want to do the best that you can. But even to this day, I still have athletes that come to me and are like, I had one last night that messaged me and was like, oh, I just did the yo-yo test. We definitely need to train. I'm like, okay, but why? Why do you want to train? Because it's better for yourself. Because at the end of the day, once you get that good test score, how is that going to correlate to your gameplay? How is that going to correlate to your mental ability to, okay, I did this, and take it into the next chapter? Right. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm trying to teach other athletes too, is that, okay, why do you want to be better?
Right? Yeah. And I think the pressure is from like it's actually from everywhere. Before I ask you about advice that you can give to parents and athletes, because we are half an hour just goes by fast. We're like 23 minutes already. Yeah, it's so fast. But before I ask you that, like, I think I feel it, and I'm sure you experienced it even at a young age. Again, I said, unlike their father, my kids are actually quite good at sports. And so like my daughter at the age of 10 is doing a lot of dance, probably like you. She doesn't do much more, but she does lots of different dances. And during about a month ago, she's in a competition and she had COVID. Like, no, not many symptoms, but she tested positive because of a sore throat. And it was she was so stressed because the day that she could go back to dance was the day of the competition. And she is in the center of the formation.
Okay.
And again, Sharon, she loves dance. So if you're watching this, it's not because Maddie loves dance. It's nothing to do with Maddie loving dance, right? But the thing is, she was in the center of the formation. But we said to her, if you have symptoms, you can't go. You can't give COVID to your teammates. Right. And Sharon was fine with it. But I could see the stress. And my daughter's fine with it. My wife, as I say, is a medical professional. She's an x-ray tech. And thank you again, medical professionals, for all you did during COVID and are still doing.
Mhm.
But Maddie felt so much stress, counting down the days, checking her symptoms. She's 10,
Oh my
checking her
goodness.
symptoms to make sure I don't have a cough, I don't have a sneeze. And on the day of the competition, she woke up, she did a bit of a twirl, and she just sort of got ready. She goes, "Mom, I have no symptoms. I think I'm good." He was like, "Wait an hour." Then we waited an hour, and we were stressed too because we didn't want to be like holding her back and upsetting
Right.
the other parents and the group, and But it was stressful for her.
Yeah.
The end is that she did end up going. She had no symptoms, and we took her as soon as she danced. We took her home and made sure
Okay.
she's watching the rest of it on a video and cheered on her team. And they actually won a small
Oh,
prize,
nice.
so which is awesome from the judges. But that's not the point. The point is she was stressed, and that was actually around the same time you wrote this post, which is why I called
Wow.
you.
Okay.
And my son, again, same thing. He was playing rugby at Sullivan Heights of all places. He's 6. He's 6, and we saw parents, not from our team, Burnaby Lake, but from just yelling at their 6 and 7 year olds. And even my son was stressed. He's like, "Am I doing this wrong? How
Right.
come my team is not winning?" Right? And I said, "You're 6. Who cares? Don't worry about it. It's fine." Right? But there's that stress, and he's 6 and he's thinking about these things. My daughter's 10. And she's worried she'll miss a competition, and she hasn't even gone to your level yet.
Yeah.
Right, so what advice do you have to give to kids, to parents, just to let some of these things go? Because sport is supposed to be about fun and
Mhm.
getting along with people and learning relationships and growing and maturing as a person. Maybe 1% of 1% get to even where you are, not
Right.
even just professional. 1% of 1% get to where you are. So
Mhm.
what do you tell everybody who's pursuing sport how they can de-stress? What advice can you give to student athletes and parents and even coaches, what they can do to help their athletes not end up like some of these ones that you wrote about?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is thinking about the whole athlete or the whole student, because if we're thinking about performance, performance doesn't just require physical performance. And in order to physically perform, you need to be mentally right and stable and present.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I talk to my athletes a lot about visualization,
yeah,
and being the kind of player that they want to be. That means watching your favorite player and seeing how they move, seeing how they analyze things, because the more that you watch something, the more that you can emulate that.
yeah,
Um, Oftentimes, we're looking to the sidelines. What does coach want me to do? What does my mom want me to do? What does my
yeah,
dad want me to do? Right?
yeah,
But very few times are we, as athletes, required to just think on our own.
yeah.
Right? And I was recently with some Italian coaches, and they think of the cognitive side
Hmm.
of athletes first before their physical. They think,
Interesting.
can they cognitively understand the game and what their job is as a player? And that has to do with the whole mindfulness and resilience side of things first. Because
Right.
if you mentally aren't in a place where you can make decisions, because decisions happen like this, right? On the field, on the court, wherever you are, if you can't decide for yourself what to do in a situation and problem solve on your own, no one can help you.
Yeah,
Right? So whether you're the most physically fit, if you can't think quickly on the field or on the court or on the dance, in a dance routine, then you can't do it for yourself. So what I would recommend is making sure that the athlete or whoever we're speaking of has a mind of their own, is confident in themselves, and when under pressure, they have the tools to deal with stress positively, right? Because we are under stress at all times, right? There's
mm,
different things that are factors playing in to even just waking up and having that sense of anxiety, right? Even if your daughter woke up that morning and she was like, oh my goodness, I haven't practiced, everyone else has, like these different
yeah,
float around. Can we cope with that and still perform? That has nothing to do with her physical ability. She's probably recited the dance multiple times, but if
yeah,
she freezes on stage, that has nothing to do with her physical. That's not her forgetting. That's her up here being
yeah,
too much in her mind. So the biggest thing is just making sure that we provide the tools to our athletes or to our students to deal with stress in the most highest stressful situations and the lowest, and to know and be aware of themselves and what they can do for themselves.
Before I ask you how people can find you, I'm going to read the final thing you wrote here, because this is, I think, a perfect sort of summary of what you've just said. And you wrote this, so I'm just summarizing you, really. Yeah. We all have a responsibility to be part of the solution. Parents, coaches, administrators, athletic directors, universities, and the athletes themselves, to support athletes before, during, and after their eligibility or their ability to play. Sports are a metaphor of life-shattering pain and life-altering opportunity, the balance of tragedy and triumph, proof that more than one thing can be true at once. We can celebrate all we have accomplished and acknowledge how far we have to go. And you thank these athletes, Lauren, Sarah, Katie. These are 3 athletes that passed away in the States, are only 3 of the hundreds of student athletes we've lost to suicide. Every single one of them deserved better. Mm-hmm. What a great, summary of, why this is important, and why what you just said for the last 30 minutes, and we're over time, but who cares? What you said is critically important, that we all have the responsibility. As parents, we can't put pressure on my daughter, my son, to play better. They're going to play how they play. Right. We can encourage them and support them. And as fellow athletes, you shouldn't be trying to put each other down or giving each other body dysmorphia. You should be encouraging each other to be the best you can be without, those issues. So how can Jessica people reach you? They can go, you tell us, and then I'll put it into the comment.
Yeah, so I have my Facebook profile, which is Jessica Marano. I also have my empowerment page, so it's Empower Fit by Jess. Okay. I think we can add it on there.
Okay. Yeah. Empower Fit _ by Jess. And that's on Instagram.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So follow Jessica, contact her if there's anything that you want to know about or have questions about. She is brilliant. She presents obviously as such, but if you have time, take a look at her posts and the positive things. She gives like training tips, but also social emotional tips, but also ways that you can help your mind and your spirit be better as well as you are pursuing student athletics. And it's for parents, and it's for students, and it's for coaches, athletic directors, anybody who wants to learn more, learn from Jess, even though she's a young leader. I think if I had a 30 under 30, you would totally be one of them. So
thank you.
Thank you, Jess, for all you do with students, and thank you for your time today. I try to always play out the song, and I think I'm going to be able to do it properly this time. And thank you all also for watching the Stigma-Free Society broadcast, and for watching, this impactful, important story that Jess told about herself, but also about how you can help others who might be struggling with some of the things she struggled with, so that they can be successful student athletes and more importantly, successful people. Check out Jess's Instagram and her Facebook page, but also check out our Stigma-Free Society's website, and check out all the student and parent and teacher tools that are available on the Stigma-Free Society's website. Please remember to donate. The fundraising campaign is still going on for one more day, so donate to Stigma-Free Society. But also check out our Surrey Schools mental health webpage. If you're a Surrey employee or a Surrey staff student, or even if you're watching from somewhere else in BC, check out all the resources that we have on our Surrey Schools mental health webpage as well. Thank you, Jess. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
All of you, thank you for having lunch with us today. Please join us again at the end of June. Have a great day, everybody.